What is it, John? Why is everybody wandering about in the middle of the night? Jenny, what's going on? Have you all taken leave of your senses? Lilac, what's happened? John, will somebody tell me what is going on in this house?
It's Richard. He's shooting at the snow. Tell him he's not to shoot and wake us all out of our beauty sleep. I was deep asleep and so was Jenny. Weren't you, Jenny? Be careful, Lilac. Richard's dangerous. He's dangerous, Jenny. Be careful.
There's a lot of snow outside. Bless you. I looked through the landing window and you can barely make out the path. I don't see what he could be shooting at in the snow. It's absurd. Besides, I heard a cry.
I really can't see why you're so upset, Lilac. It's just Richard amusing himself as usual. Lilac says she heard shooting, but I'm sure there's nothing wrong. I didn't. I think you're imagining things, but he's certainly very selfish and I shall tell him so. Richard, really Richard, it's too bad at this time of night. You frightened us. Richard? Lilac.
What is it, Jenny? What's the matter?
It's Richard. He's killed himself.
Look, Richard's revolver's gone.
What's going on in there? Anything wrong?
Listen, there's someone outside.
Outside? Who?
What happened here? What's happened here? What's the matter? This man's dead.
Who are you?
Shot.
Well, who are you and where did you come from?
I just ran my car into a ditch. I've been lost for hours. Found some gates. I came up to the house to try and get some help and telephone. Heard a shot and someone came rushing out of the windows and collided with me. He dropped this gun. It's foreign made.
Oh, where did this man go?
How the hell should I know in the snow?
Somebody shot Richard.
Looks like it. Better get in touch with the police. Who is he anyway?
My husband.
Here, drink this. You've had a shot. No, don't touch anything, ma'am. This looks like murder, and if it is, nothing must be touched.
Murder? It can't be murder.
What's happened?
Richard's been shot. Richard's been shot.
What did I hear you say?
He said murder.
Richard.
Look, there's something on his chest. A paper with writing on it.
Don't touch. Whatever you do, don't touch. May 15, paid in full.
McGregor.
You mean that man, the father, the child that was run over?
Of course, McGregor.
It's all newspaper. Cut up. Look.
No, don't touch it. It's got to be left for the police. Shall I?
I'll do it.
No, I will.
The man ran away. Do you think he...
Shh, John.
Is that the police station? This is Sibley House, Mr. Richard Andrus' house. Mr. Richard Andrus has just been found dead, shot dead.
Beautiful. Opposite and beautiful.
Sergeant Bausch.
Season of best and mellow fruitfulness. Close blossom friend of the maturing sun.
What?
Keats.
Ah,
Yeah, you hardly credit that the fine day it is. When you think of the terrible time we had getting here last night, the worst snow I've known for years, no wonder the accidents piled up the way they did on Monroe Avenue.
it might have been worse.
I don't know now. At 12 Corners, that was a nasty smash. One killed and 2 children badly injured, and the mother crying her heart out there on the road.
Have the fingerprint boys finished their job yet?
Yes, ma'am, I've got them all ready here for you.
Wonderful, wonderful. No trouble from the household in taking their prints?
No trouble whatever. Most obliging they were, anxious to help, as you might say, and that is only to be expected.
I don't know about that. Most people kick up no end of a fuss. Seem to think their prints are going to be filed in the Memorial Art Gallery or something. Now, let's see here. Mr. Andrus, that's the deceased. Mrs. Lilac Andrus. Mrs. Andrus Sr. Young John Andrus. Miss Genesee. And who's this? Morty. Oh, yes, that's the name of the male nurse, isn't it? And 2 other sets. Let's see now. On the outside of the window, on decanter, on brandy glass, overlaying prints of Richard Andrus and Morty and Mrs. Lilac Andrus, on cigarette lighter, and on the revolver. That will be Mr. Michael Starkweather. He gave Mrs. Andrus brandy, and he carried the gun from the garden.
Mr. Starkweather.
You don't like him?
What's he doing here? That's what I'd like to know. Running his car in a ditch and coming up to a house where there's been a murder done?
Well, you nearly ran our car into the ditch last night, coming up to the house where there's been a murder done. And as to what he's doing, he's been here for the last week, looking round for a small house or cottage. Seems he had a grandmother from the area and used to come here for the holidays when he was a boy.
Well, no. If he had a local grandmother, that's a different matter, isn't it?
We ought to get the report on him from Albany any moment now. Have you got his prints of comparison?
I sent Jones round to the inn where he's staying, but he'd gone out to the garage and told him to report at the station as soon as possible.
Ah, right. Now, about the second set of unidentified prints. The print of a man's hand flat on the table by the body and blurred impressions on the outside and inside of the French window.
McGregor.
Yes, it could be, but there weren't any on the revolver. And wouldn't you say that any man should have the sense enough to wear gloves?
An unbalanced fellow like McGregor wouldn't think of that.
We ought to get a description of him out through the RPD soon.
You know, it's a sad story whichever way you look at it. A man, his wife, but lately dead, and his only child killed by furious driving.
If there'd been furious driving, Andrus would have gotten a sentence of manslaughter, or at any rate, at least a driving offense. He wasn't even ticketed.
There goes on sometimes.
A man's hand flat on the table. I wonder.
It could have been the guest in the house.
I understand from Mrs. Andrus there were no visitors to the house yesterday. That manservant might tell us more. Go and fetch him.
Yes, ma'am.
Morty Rundle?
Yes, sir.
Sit down there, if you will. Now, you've been the nurse attendant and valet to Mr. Richard Andrus for how long?
3.5 years, sir.
Now then, you've been nurse attendant and valet to Mr. Richard Andrus for how long?
3.5 years, ma'am.
Did you like the job?
I found it quite satisfactory.
What was Mr. Andrus like to work for?
Difficult.
But there were advantages.
Yes, sir. I was extremely well paid.
Which made up for other disadvantages?
Yes, I am trying to accumulate a little nest egg.
What were you doing before you came to Mr. Andrus?
The same sort of job, ma'am. I can show you my references. I've always, I hope, given satisfaction. I've had some rather difficult patients. Mr. James Scranton, for example. He is now a voluntary patient in a mental home. A very difficult person, ma'am.
Right. No question of drugs with Mr. Andrus, I suppose.
No, sir. Brandy was Mr. Andrews' taste.
Drank a lot of it then.
Yes, sir. A heavy drinker, but not an alcoholic, if you understand me. He never showed the effects.
What's all this about guns and revolvers and shooting at animals?
It was his hobby, ma'am, what we call in the profession a compensation. He'd been what they term a big game hunter, I understand. Quite a little arsenal he's got there in his bedroom. Rifles, shotguns, air guns, pistols, and revolvers.
Indeed. Well, just take a look at this gun here. It's all right. You didn't mind handling it. Do you recognize it?
It's difficult to say, sir. It looks like one of Mr. Andrus, but I really don't know very much about firearms. I can't say for sure which gun he had on the table beside him last night.
Didn't he have the same one each night?
Oh, no, he had his fancies, sir.
What was the good of his having a gun last night with all of that snow?
It was just a habit, sir. He was used to it, as you might say.
Stay here, stay here. When did you last see him?
About 9:45, ma'am. He had brandy and a glass by his side and the pistol of his choice. I arranged the rug for him and wished him good night.
Didn't he go to bed?
No, ma'am, not in the usual sense of the term. He always slept in his chair. At 6 in the morning, I would bring him tea. Then I would wheel him into his bedroom for a bath, shave, etc. And he would then usually sleep until lunchtime. I understand that he suffered from insomnia at night and so preferred to remain in his chair. He was rather an eccentric gentleman.
And this window was shut when you left him?
Yes, ma'am. There was a lot of snow about.
Was it locked?
No, that window was never locked.
Could he open it if he wanted?
Oh, yes, he had his wheel there. He could wheel himself over to the window and open it if the night should clear.
I see. You didn't hear a shot last night?
No, ma'am.
Isn't that rather remarkable?
My room is some distance away. Along a passage through a baize door.
Wasn't that rather awkward in case your patient might need you?
Oh, no, sir. He had a bell that rang in my room.
But he did not ring that bell last night.
Oh, no, ma'am. If he had done so, I would have woken up at once. If I may say so, a very shrill bell, ma'am.
Did you?
Three. Three. Oh, yes, indeed. It's Rochester. It's RPD, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. Lum here. Got it. Right, yes. Toronto. Yes, yes, yes. The aunt. When did she die? Oh, 2 months ago. Let's see. 18 34th Street, Toronto. Bausch, can you take some notes? Yes. Oh, it was it? Yes. Slowly, please. Medium height, blue eyes, dark hair, and a beard. Yes, as you say. You remember the case. Ah, he did he? Violent sort of fellow? Yes, you're sending it along? Yes. Well, thank you, Chief Singletary. Tell me, what do you think yourself? Yes, I know what the findings were, but what do you think? Ah, he had he? Once or twice before? Yes, of course. We'd make some allowances. All right, thanks. Well, we've got some background on Mr. McGregor. It seems that when his wife died, he traveled back from Canada to leave the child with an aunt of his who lived in Churchville because he had gotten a job in Alaska and couldn't take the boy. Apparently, he was terribly cut up at the boy's death and went about swearing revenge on Andrus. That's not uncommon after one of these accidents. Anyway, he went back off to Canada. They've got his address and they'll send off a cable to Toronto. The aunt who was going to leave the child with died about 2 months ago. You were there at the time, I suppose, Morty? Motor accident in Churchville, running over a boy?
Oh, yes, I remember it well.
What happened?
Mr. Andrus was driving along the main street and a little boy ran out of a house there. There was no chance of stopping. Mr. Andrus ran over him before he could do a thing about it.
Speeding, eh?
Oh, no, sir. That was brought out very clearly at the investigation. Mr. Andrus was well within the speed limit.
Well, I know that's what he said.
It was quite true, sir. Nurse Warren, she was in the car too, and she agreed.
Did she happen to be looking at the speedometer at the time?
I believe Nurse Warren did happen to see the speedometer, and she estimated that they were going at between 20 and 25 miles per hour. Mr. Andrus was completely exonerated.
But the boy's father didn't agree.
Perhaps that's only natural, sir.
Had Mr. Andrus been drinking?
I believe he had a glass of sherry, sir.
Well, I think that will do it for now.
Excuse me, sir, but was Mr. Andrews, miss, I'm sorry, excuse me, ma'am, but was Mr. Andrews shot with his own gun?
That remains to be seen. Whoever shot him collided with Mr. Starkweather, who was coming up to the house to try to get help. And in the collision, he dropped a gun. Mr. Starkweather picked it up, this gun.
I see, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
By the way, were there any visitors to the house yesterday? Yesterday evening in particular?
Not that I can recall at the moment.
If you ask me, that fellow's a nasty bit of goods. Nothing I can put my finger on, but I don't like him.
I'm of the same opinion you are about that. He's not a man I would trust, and I'd say there may have been something fishy about that accident.
I wonder now if he knows something he hasn't told us about last night. What's this? 'Tis misty in November, but seldom in December. Is that Keats?
No. Bosh.